Before this review goes underway, there will be major spoilers for Cronos The New Dawn. You have been warned. Before the deep dive review actually begins, I'm going to do a little quick review for anyone that doesn't have the time to watch the whole thing. So, my thoughts on Cronos The New Dawn: it's a really solid horror game. It is so much better than the Callisto Protocol. That was miserable when I played it a few years ago. But to give the rating, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It is a solid experience all the way around, and especially the whole story, the plot twist, everything. When you learn it all in the last, I'm going to say 2-3 hours of the game, super crazy. It's a fun experience, and if you're a horror fan, this is one you should definitely play. And for everyone else who wants to hear what I really think about the story, the atmosphere, and the gameplay, well, sit back, my acolytes, grab some popcorn, maybe get a drink or two, and let's dive right on in to Cronos The New Dawn. Cronos The New Dawn begins with the traveler being awakened in a lost and desolate land, somewhere called New Dawn. Once you emerge from this pod, your goal is to find your predecessor. On the way, you find a device left by him that allows you to manipulate the oddities around the world. Shortly after, you reach the fallen predecessor and pick up his anchor. Now, your goal is set. Find a target named Edward. Where Edward is set is in a housing project, where we're introduced to a bright light off in the distance called a dive point. Reaching this will transport us back in time so we can find our target. This is set before the change occurred. The change, you may be asking, is the cataclysm that caused the world to fall apart. After rummaging around, figuring out where Edward's at, he is found in a bunker and he is extracted. Once we leave the dive point, we make our way to a machine that starts this ascendant sequence, which takes essences from my phylactery, and sends them to a higher place of purpose, which in horror fashion, something goes wrong. The machine malfunctions and you are pulled out by someone named the Warden, an unknown character who couldn't stand by and watch. After talking with him, you are sent to the steelworks, the biggest steel factory in the country. Once arriving, the dive point is high and out of reach. You're gonna need some anti-gravity boots to go find it, and once you eventually find them, you traverse your way up and hop right on into the dive. Once in the past, you see the disrepair of the steelworks, ground zero the infection, and before finding your target, Arthur, you meet a woman named Veronica, which is a stupid name, who is on edge and escapes from you. After venturing through the facility, you find Arthur and his infected brother, and you must choose. Arthur, complete your mission, or save his brother, choosing the morally right path. Once chosen, you are sent back to repeat the Ascendance sequence. After talking to one of the brothers, you learned of Dr. David Zibert, whose essence is in the hospital. This is the tipping point of the story where hallucinations and invasions of the mind begins. The Warden warns you of the dangers in that zone, and after jump scares and fighting and searching, the dive point is found once again, linked to the hospital in the past. This time, you must help Veronica escape an elevator to free her, and after freeing her, she goes completely silent, and the only logical step is to follow her and find the target. And once you find her, you find the doctor, which his mind, his body is succumbing to the infection. He needs to be extracted, and now you're sent back to do the Ascendant sequence. There is just one problem. It's just not him, because you have to go through a whole mess of minds, starting first with a woman named Angela, and after a bit of talking, you find your next target. Ilza Zybert, his daughter, in the church. Once you arrive to the church and you find the mother Elsa, you notice a dead traveler next to her. Once she's defeated, defeated, you check out the dead traveler and the Pathfinder. Who's this, and why does his numbers relate to the Warden's? We need answers. The traveler picks up the body, returns to the machine, to an empty place filled with dead bodies. The Pathfinder is rested at the terminal where the Warden worked. Then there's a door. Something is wrong. You search and search and search for the Warden, and soon you find a prison full of dead travelers. Eventually, you fix the door and open it. A voice mentions Lazarus. Then you see Veronica, her life force, in the machine itself. And once she's unplugged, you see everything she knows, which causes you to collapse and be unconscious. And once you awake, the Warden just berates you, gets angry with you for killing his lover. He places his hand on the dead Pathfinder, transfers his consciousness, rips open a dive point with his scythe, and you follow. After chasing the Pathfinder, you meet Veronica again. You try to reason with her that the Pathfinder will not treat her right, and you mention that her and the Traveler are the same person, which leads to the Pathfinder being enraged by this. So he takes you on top, leading to one final fight between the Traveler and the Pathfinder. Man versus Creator. Once he is defeated, the game gives you a choice. Kill or spare. No matter the decision, nothing matters. Killing the Pathfinder sends Veronica back to her time as patient zero of the outbreak. Sparing him lets the Pathfinder and Veronica go through the dive, but she gets infected, and he scalps her, starting the cycle again. Either way, the cycle must continue. But if you complete the game on New Game Plus, there is a third ending called Begin Anew. The Traveler takes Veronica, the Pathfinder's scythe, and leaves the Pathfinder behind to prevent the outbreak once again. The game ends with the Traveler's hand reaching out to Veronica. I had to watch multiple videos to understand this story, and I don't think I fully understand it, because this was a whole quick synopsis of what actually happens, but oh my god, I wasn't expecting the first 80% of the game to be totally false to what you know, and then the last 20% to be like, alright, so you know everything you know? Forget all about it. That was that was crazy to me. I couldn't believe it. Like, learning the Warden's secret, learning who he actually is, why he chose to interfere, all the dead travelers, the importance of Veronica in his eyes was quite interesting. Who knows? I didn't know Cronos The New Dawn was a love story. Did you? Some things I really liked about the story was, the mystery to the atmosphere. You had no idea what was really going on except for go from here, do the dive point, go to follow what the vocation is saying. It was very, very interesting for all that, and then especially going to the dives, extracting people, realizing that what you were doing was not a good thing. I like that. That was super clever. But there was a few things in this story I didn't really like, and it kind of involves the time loop part of it. I don't like time loops. I hate time loops. Like, yeah, it makes sense for the story, but I just don't like time loops. Time loops are stupid. And I think there's a little nitpick. This kind of goes with the gameplay part of it, but the fact that I have to play the game again to get the third ending sucks in my eyes. I don't like playing it. I struggle playing games again, so that's kind of all I got for this section. So I want to know what you thought about the story if you played it, and I'm not going to go do a full deep dive of the story because one, there's a lot more better videos out there explaining it, and I ain't no English teacher, so let's hop right on into the next section. This is a fairly big section. I mean, you've got stuff like the church, the hospital, and even the beginning area where you hop out of the pod where it's all empty and lonely. It is quite unsettling just getting out, looking around, seeing that there is nothing out here except for the void, the orphans, and your dead fellow travelers. It is a quite eerie and lonely feeling. Because in that whole opening section, as you're going through, there is no enemies, nothing that you are going to fight until you enter that first building. Where you're just looking around, you see all the organic stuff on the walls, on the ceiling, on the ground, and you just keep going through it. You're like, something's wrong, and then something. You don't know what that something is, and it just comes scurrying out of sight. You're like, what is that? So you're on edge, and as you're about to leave, you make your way, I can't recall exactly, but you make your way towards the exit, and all of a sudden the door bursts down with your first encounter with the orphans. That was it's so memorable if you ask me, on tension build and everything. Then you go to somewhere like the Steelworks, where that is a completely different feeling compared to the last area where, like the beginning of the game, because I'm gonna put the first dive point, the whole like the building complex and the beginning area of the game together, because they are very similar in style. So when you hit the Steelworks, it's all orange and red colors like that, where it sets an entirely different mood to where you just were. Plus, I mean, the Steelworks kind of cool. I mean, you got the anti-grav boots. I mean, it was super cool. And that's another thing, the anti-grav boots where you see the blocks moving up and down, that is a really cool aesthetic. I really like how they just show it off and everything to you. And moving on from the Steelworks, you have something like the hospital, where it is said to be the most dangerous and abandoned zone in New Dawn, and you can tell with all the hallucinations you're experiencing, everything you're you're going crazy at this rate. And the monsters, and especially when you get out of that dive point in that hospital section, when you go from the hospital all the way back to the Ascendance machine, just tripping on insanity is what I'm going to say. It was wild, and I think you have to experience that. Like, I think me saying it doesn't do it justice. And then you get to somewhere like the church, where it should be a holy place, a place of safety and everything, and you just get there and you hear just this voice speaking to you. You're like, okay, I don't take me to church. It's horrifying. And then once you actually venture around, go into the catacombs, get everything done, and then you go meet the mother in the church, it's just wrong on so many levels. I hate it all equally. And once you take that dead Pathfinder back to where the Ascendance machine is, your one place you thought was safe, just riddled with bodies everywhere, it's quite eerie. The only place that doesn't really follow this rule of thumb is once the Pathfinder is awakened and you follow him through, and you just go through all the floating chunks of debris and these air and whatnot. That's where it doesn't feel as eerie. It feels more cosmic, feels more just out there in a feeling. To circle it all back together, if you truly ask me, there was not one bad location in this whole game. I think I think my least favorite location in this game was the housing complex. I mean, I know it's the beginning of the game, but I think it's the weakest one, but it's still all strong. I mean, you had the hospital, you had the Steelworks, you had the church, and everything following that. There was not one bad area in this game. Especially when you get to where it shows the title card and you see that broken tower in the background. That is a really cool set piece to look at. There is a lot to love about this game, but this part's getting a little too long, so I need to hop over to the gameplay section. Now, if it wasn't for the gameplay, Cronos The New Dawn wouldn't be nearly as engaging as the other parts of the game itself, like the atmosphere and the story. So if you ask me, I think the game is darn tough on normal mode. I was a little surprised. The resource management is very key, reminiscent of Resident Evil, because I often found myself debating whether I should take the ammo, the healing items, or potentially a new weapon because of my limited resource slots. I didn't know what to go with, and I ended up either wasting a bullet, getting rid of something that maybe would have been nice, but these are tough choices, and it had to be me. I mean, even then, keep in mind, these enemies aren't even pushovers too. their abilities to merge and become stronger, formidable foes honestly makes them on par with the Necromorphs from Dead Space. Fully honest, I do really like fighting the orphans in this game. They're really fun to fight. And next we have like the weapons, the equipment, and the environment all work together to make feel powerful but without breaking the horror tension the game tries so hard to work on. So when you start the game, you get this pistol. You think it's a pistol, your Sarn pistol. You're probably not much. But this thing, you rely on it so much. It's crazy. So you charge it and give a giant punchy and satisfying impact out of it. And especially when you hit the enemies sometimes, ooh, it is satisfying. But if you tap it, you get a weaker, more sand-like shot. So in order to get the most out of your weapons, keep them charged to get their full power. Like the shotgun has a massive spread, but it does massive amounts of damage. The rifle, if you tap, it does a burst, but if you hold it down to charge, it does heat-seeking rounds. There's only one weapon in this game that does something different, and it's the suppressed pistol. Holding this thing down is just a fully auto pistol. There's nothing special to this thing, but it's a reliable backup if you don't have ammo in your other 3 slots. What are the guns without some fierce enemies to fight? The orphans, as previously mentioned, are the main enemies you fight. But there are versions like the doppelgangers, which are stronger versions, which I can't tell you the difference between them and the orphans. I'm not 100% sure. But then you got like runners that haul ass at you. The bruisers, which are a boss. I thought they were a basic enemy, but I didn't know that. But they are huge with their mace-like arms. The acid spitters attack from range. And the wall orphans are reminiscent of Dead Space lurkers. And then you got like the guys on the walls that spit out and grab you and keep you there. I'm not sure there, but then you got many more. You got some more enemies that appear here, but they're not as memorable to write down and tell you. Because you have like little babies that crawl and explode and whatnot. I mean, not big. Honestly, my favorite part of them is their merging. Stuff like how Dead Space has cut off their limbs, or Callisto's stop, or shoot the tentacles, that's what it was. This one is stop them from merging. Because if you burn the corpses on the ground, they can't do anything with those corpses. They can't merge together and become more and more dangerous after every time they do it. And I believe they max out after 6 merges, which they're unstoppable. This one I've never gotten to figure out how unstoppable they are. The most I had was 3 or 4 times, but oh god, it was brutal. Oh, it sucked. I had no ammo, no nothing. It was fun and challenging. But the only thing I have to say is none of these enemies stand out as my favorite or least favorite to fight. They're just enemies to fight. I don't know what else to say. And last thing to mention with the gameplay section is now we got the bosses. The first one you fight is at the apartment complex with a huge buildup. As you ascend the complex, you see this black and mysterious figure spout in cryptic and unsettling words. It haunts you until you fight it. It's made of like black and oozy material. Very, very ink-like, if you ask. In order to fight this thing, you have to burn it with either the canisters around the arena or flame thing you have on, which once you set it on fire, it has these orange pimples that pops out. So you need to shoot them, pop them, and that's how you kill it. Fairly simple fight. Next is the dive at the steelworks. You face a giant orphan, which is very reminiscent of Dead Space's brutes, where they're huge enemies with obvious weak points. But their charging attacks are deadly. Stand in front of these, you are not going to be surviving long. These guys appear multiple times throughout the fight, and one of them has the unmerged one, the black oozy stuff with the last boss. I won't tell you when, because that's part of the fun. The third one is Elysia, In the church, when you walk up to the church, there is a haunting voice talking to you. You don't know what this thing is. It is horrifying, and especially when you walk into her arena, a place meant for peace turned dark and desolate, who makes her a haunting and horrifyingly encounter if you're any bit religious. And finally, you have the Pathfinder. This was, I think, my favorite fight out of the whole game. You teleport to different areas of the map, like to the steelworks, to the hospital, to the housing complex, to fight him in all these different places. And it kind of forces you to learn and how to utilize all the mechanics that the game has taught you. Because once he's defeated, I mean, the loop repeats. It's the tension, the build-up, discovering his secret makes him my favorite boss, eventually making everything tie together so beautifully. What's the verdict, you ask, my acolytes? Simply, Cronos The New Dawn is a solid 9 out of 10. I can't give 10 out of 10s because it's not in me to do it. But Cronos The New Dawn is such a solid experience all around. I mean, between the choices I had of either Silent Hill F or Cronos The New Dawn, I'm so happy I chose Cronos The New Dawn. I mean, down to the gameplay, down to the enemies, the atmosphere, and the forever looping story, until you complete on New Game Plus, of course. It is a solid experience for any horror fans to enjoy. If you like stuff like Dead Space and, say, Callisto Protocol, this one is right up your alley. So I want to know, if you've played Cronos The New Dawn, what do you think about it? Do you like the game? Do you hate it? Is it worthy of being up there with horror games like Resident Evil and Dead Space? Or if it's not, I mean, I want to know what you think about Cronos The New Dawn. So thank you very much for watching my review, my acolytes, and if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon with hopefully another review next month and more content from me. So take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.